Hello everyone and welcome to this Q&A session for the new Nordic Voice Shorts Competition #1, part of the 31st edition of Nordisk Panorama. A new Nordic Voice is a competition that highlights bright new Scandinavian talents, and the films are eligible for the new Nordic Voice Award as well as the Audience Award, so don't forget to vote for your favorite film after this session if you haven't done it yet. The films in this program, there are 5 films, they're all very different, but what they have in common is their vision, originality, strong personality, and we're very lucky today to have 8 directors around this virtual table to talk about the 5 films in the program. So I'm going to introduce you all shortly. For the film Magnus is a Sexist, we have Emil Brolin and Hampus Harberg. Hi, thanks for being here. For Wrong Direction, we have Signe Rosell. Thank you. From Mantis, we have the director Roberta Hilarius Rijkaard. And for Thinking About the Weather, we have Gardar Torkelsen. Hi.
Hi.
And for 18, 3 filmmakers, Daphne Lechuga, Laura D'Angeli, and Maria Coromel. Thank you very much for all being here and for all making the time to talk to us. It's very nice to have some insight about the films. So let's start right away with a short question to each of you, maybe starting with Magnus is a Sexist. It's one of the 2 fiction films in this program, and it uses the setting of a theatre company, Rehearsal, to tackle very sensitive issues, but in a very humorous way. So I wonder if Emil and Hampus, you can tell us a few words about this choice of a comedy, quite political comedy that uses quite grotesque characters.
I love that you call the characters grotesque.
That's how I perceived it, but
yeah, I love that. But yes, both me and Emil work as actors at theaters as our profession, and in the post Me Too situation, it was a lot of meetings that were very bizarre. I mean, it's not that far from the actual meetings that happened on the theater, so it was very natural for us to make a film in that setting.
Emil, I think you play one of the characters. How was it?
But I can agree with Hampus that these meetings in real life were quite similar, so it was easy to like use your imagination and work in the situation, because it was kind of familiar, not that twisted, and we used many colleagues that were participating in similar meetings as well, so it was very easy to get into the right vibe and the right kind of atmosphere.
So it's quite close to reality then. This
This
awkward situation.
Not all specifics, but some of them.
Moving on to the other fiction film in the program called Mantis. So Roberta, I think you also star in the film. It's a dark and funny tale of a cohabitation between 2 flatmates that goes quite wrong because of a misunderstanding. Where did this desire to combine this dark humor, this like kind of horror and comedy come from?
Well, I think I got this idea, and I didn't decide that it should be like that. It was supposed to be like that. So I don't know. It had to be the in between these 2 genres, I think, because that's how I experience life a lot. I don't know. Yeah, it was the idea. It was important for me that it was not only a horror and not only a comedy, but we balanced the 2 genres, and then but we had the drama in the middle, and yeah.
So one character is very warm and extrovert, and the other one is very quiet and mysterious. Did you write the film with this other actress in mind, or did you find her after the script was written?
She was in my mind from the beginning. She just entered. And I didn't even know her that well. I'm an actor as well, and we got educated on the same school. She was in another city, but in the same year, so I knew her, but not that well. And she was perfect for the part.
Yeah, she's a revelation. Very scary. Signe, you've directed Wrong Direction, that follows a female band from Norway as they get more and more successful and start wondering about their future together. How did you meet these girls, and how long did you follow them for this film?
I met Maria, the girl who plays bass. She was sort of the founder of the band. She's been sort of a friend of friends. We've known about each other for a long time, but we've never met. And then I met her last year. And I got to know that they were going to form this band, which was supposedly not that professional. It was just for fun. And since Maria is a character that sort of draws every room she goes into, I decided that I would follow them from the start. So I followed them for over a year, and I'm still kind of filming them, even though the film is edited and delivered. Yeah.
That's brilliant. So you got to know them quite well throughout the month, I guess, and you managed to capture this raw energy and this friendship that they share in a very heartwarming way, I find.
Thank you.
It seems like their talent and success comes as something unexpected to them. As you say, they're kind of playing with this idea of forming a band, and then people love them, and they almost don't know what to do with this success.
Yeah, I think what kind of drew me into the band even more was the sort of shamelessness that they expressed. They just took all the place they needed to take in kind of every space they filled. And even though the success was a bit surprising, they also kind of expected it, which was quite funny, because it's not something I see that much in my generation. So I think that's probably the biggest signature of that group.
Unapologetic.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's something quite political about that we'll come back to later. 18 is also a very political film. It follows Ansu, an 18-year-old boy from Senegal who now lives in Italy and struggles to find his place in Italy. The particularity of your film is that you're sometimes filming him, and sometimes it's filming himself and what he sees. So as you state at the beginning of the film, there are many young men in his situation. How did you find him, and how did he welcome this idea of being filmed and also filming himself, Laura, Maria and Daphne?
Yeah, so okay, I'll start. So my dad is also a legal tutor, like Nikla, as we see her in the film. So yeah, I knew from him the situation of these unaccompanied minors, and then from him I also met Nikla. We met Nikla, and we got to know the situation of Ansu, who was quite interesting in the idea, especially in the idea of filming himself. I think, and yeah, maybe also Maria and Daphne will tell that, but I think we kind of saw that it was a sort of cathartic experience for him to film himself and tell his everyday life to us, to have someone to tell his story, and also to reflect on his story while he was telling that to us.
Also, we were living in Denmark, or we are based in Denmark. So it was a way for us to get to know him through his recordings, because he was in Italy. So it was also a way of getting material from the distance and giving him some authority also in the film.
Yeah, and I think it also was because we wanted to kind of diverge from the idea of us owning the story of his life. We thought that was wrong. And that was like that dual thing that Maria is saying, of like the practicality of giving us the possibility of being with him, but also ethically it was better for us because it would allow him to have the space to tell his story without us kind of imposing it. So.
Absolutely, and it's quite rare to see things through immigrants' eyes and not just European looking at their situation. And you can tell he really lights up in front of the camera because he's quite shy, and when he's in with Nicola or other friends, and when he's talking to the camera, it feels like a very safe space for him. So it's very touching to witness.
Yeah.
Thinking about the weather, third documentary in the program, Gardar, is also a very personal one, and it's like a conversation. Well, it goes back and forth between like interviews and this monologue. It's very personal, but also very relatable, because it's about the state of the planet, global warming, and how anxious we can feel about it, and how huge it is, and how powerless we feel. So how did you start this project? I think it was a student film for NFTS, so you were in London?
Yeah, that's correct. I was doing this is my graduation film from the NFTS. So I wanted to do it about climate change, and I wanted to do it about people who are directly affected by climate change, or will be in the near future. And I wanted to do that to find someone who has like an emergency response to it, how we all should be responding to it. But as it turned out, the people who will suffer first are the ones who are most likely to be in absolute denial, which made me extremely anxious. And from that, the film was kind of born. So it's kind of me dealing with the film that I thought I was making. That's kind of how this film turned out to be what it is.
Yeah, there's this constant reflection on the film itself as
on the process of making it, on the process of trying to find someone who cares.
Did you feel like being an outsider, because you come from another country, helped getting this very honest, spontaneous answers from the people you interviewed? Do you think it played any part?
Yes, especially maybe in the UK because of class issues and such. But it was also just a question of just asking them open questions and listening. Like, people tend to think you agree with them if you just ask an open question and just let them talk.
Yeah, that's true. And their answers are very, well, interesting, but also quite frightening. Well, thank you. We'll go back to your film. I just wanted to ask a few more questions to Emil and Hampus. So your film, Magnus is a Sexist, is kind of a recipe for disaster. It's this conversation that you know is going to go wrong and goes terribly wrong. And there's a certain sadistic pleasure in watching them head for disaster. Was it something you were interested in exploring as well? How cruel, but also how funny it is to watch them head for disaster.
Both me and Emil are cowards. We at the theaters we work at, and it's often very hard to bring up subjects. So I think this is kind of a nightmare fantasy for us to punish ourselves if we would do something. If that makes sense, it's like
the worst case scenario in a way.
Yeah,
the worst case scenario for us. Yes.
Something like a therapy for yourself, or inverted therapy.
So you said you recruited fellow friends actors for this group.
Yes.
How did you cast them? Because it's quite a varied group, of course.
We were quite clear about which one we would like to participate in the film, and we actually got them because we could choose from the ones that worked in the theater and some of our friends, but it was something maybe that people are thinking about this subject, and I think there is also something to do with making tricks with archetypes or with stereotypes and try to go towards them or to revolt against them in small ways.
And how long did you have to shoot and maybe to rehearse before the shooting?
Was 1 day?
Yes, we did it in 2 days. We did the theater part in 1 day and then the discussion part in 1 day.
So very condensed.
Very condensed, but since Emil plays the main character and is the engine of the whole situation, it was very easy for to rehearse, or because everybody just had to react on his acting, sort of. And
we had done several improvisation that we transcripted, and then we went back to the manuscript again. So we had like what do you call it? Like we had done the situation several times before, but in improvisations and so on.
I see. In Mantis, the performances are also central, of course. I'm not sure there's a lot of improvisation in this case because it's very sharp. And can you tell us about how you worked with the other actress and how long you had to make the film?
Yeah, well, I worked on the film before shooting. I had, I think, 4 months. I had several meetings with Nana Koppel, which is the other actress. I mean, for me as an actor as well, I find it very helpful when directors, they involve me in the visual parts, in this, in all the parts. I've tried several times as an actor just to go to the be on when we shoot, and I'm quite confused actually. What universe are we trying to make? Because in Mantis, it's quite it's not realistic.
Yeah, there are strong artistic direction in terms of colors and lights and
exactly. So and that was very important for me to tell Nana, listen, we're going to make it this big, but we're going to use these colors and this music and this, so it's going to catch you. You're not going to fall through it. I mean, if we were working with gray colors and something like that, it would be wrong. So I tried to make a safe space where we could really just go all the way. And when we shot the film, we knew that we were gonna make like go all the way and then just turn it a bit down actually, and just have an open conversation, because it can be quite sensitive when you, and as an actor, do something and suddenly someone tells you to like turn it down. But we had all the conversations before, so it was easy and something it was a playful experience, and I really enjoyed it myself. First, it wasn't meant to be me playing, but
it works really well. I think this duo,
and because I knew the materials that well, it was very joyful.
Well, thank you. Great. The cast in Wrong Direction, of course, is not made of actors, but they're all very charismatic characters, if I can say, and the film is a lot about giving them a voice, and of course they want to have their voice heard, and by making a film about them, Signe, you're also adding another voice about the story. So in this sense it is quite political. And there's a sentence I really love in the film where one of the musicians says, it's not like there are strong forces against us, but on the other hand, not everyone just does that, just like makes a band and goes on tour. I think it says something very strong about what it means being a woman nowadays who's trying things and putting herself out there in the world.
Yeah, this is a very diverse group of women. There's 6 women playing in the same band. 2 of them are very noisy and takes a lot of room, 2 are quite shy, and the 2 others are kind of in the middle. So it was quite challenging to sort of sort out what role they were all going to play. But I early decided that I wanted to portray them as a group, because I felt that was stronger than focusing on one of the women. And they're very political. They're a radical left-wing socialist feminist band which sings about abortion and how the rent in Oslo is too high. But yeah, I think it's the biggest strength of the film, and I would never have made it if they weren't as political and direct as they are, kind of.
The film captures something very precious that you don't often see in music or rock documentaries. It's this stage where you think, should I quit my job to go on tour? Is it the right thing to do? Like the pragmatic aspect of making a band work.
Yeah, that was. I think it's still kind of an issue for the band, because they're all in their mid-20s and everyone's trying to figure out what to do with their lives. And, making a band is cool and fun and gives you a lot of energy, but it's not necessarily a safe future. So I thought that part was quite important, because also it showed some of the imbalance in the group. Because one of them were willing to just let everything go and do this full time, and the rest were like, oh, but I'm studying and we need money and we don't have any money. So yeah, I thought it's a funny part of it, I think, yeah.
Laura, Daphne, Maria, your film depicts a very touching relationship between Ansu and Nikla, his tutor, and it's a very ambivalent one, because you can see there's a lot of respect and kindness between them, but it's not a fairy tale. It's not always easy for them to understand each other. How did you try to tell the story? The specific story of their relationship, maybe starting with Laura, or I can't see you all.
Yeah. Well, actually, when we started the project, we wanted to focus only on Ansu, because, of course, we wanted to tell his story of an unaccompanied minor in Europe. But then we realized that there was like this huge thing, like this relationship between them was too big and too important to just avoid talking about it. So yeah, then we decided, and we also thought that Nikla was the one person who knew Ansu way better than we did. And yeah, so we thought that maybe her voice could also help us telling his story from a point of view which was which knew more things than we did, also about the issue of the whole minors that come to Europe.
Yeah, I also think that we got to know Ansu through Nikla, so it felt natural that in the film the audience gets to know Ansu also a little bit through Nikla, because that's how we got to know him also, like through talking with her, and she was the one also who Laura met first. So yeah, it felt natural.
And she's a very strong character, a great woman.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Daphne?
Yeah, I think in the end, even like we felt natural about the choice of including both, but we were not sure about how we were going to edit the film. And then while we were editing, we had this idea of combining the voiceover of Nicola and the footage of him, of his own footage. And I think that made it even stronger, because then you could see that they were actually trying to talk, even though they had these difficulties of, well, the language, right? Because he wasn't like native in Italian, and also this cultural clash, right? Like coming from a different background altogether and trying to communicate, sharing the same space. And so it was a really good way of trying to make them talk visually, even though they had their own physical boundaries in a way, or yeah, so that was beautiful.
Filming seems quite therapeutic for Ansu and Gardar in your film. It seems therapeutic as well, making this film, thinking about the weather. It ends on a woman from Extinction Rebellion who gets arrested. I was wondering, so was this film therapeutic to make, or would you say action is the best response to this anxiety that I think everyone can relate to?
Yeah, it was to an extent, and it's kind of through making that film that I came to that answer. That wasn't obvious in the beginning at all. But I definitely think action is the most meaningful way to deal with this anxiety.
Have you joined Extinction Rebellion then?
No, well, I did kind of in the research process of making the film. Funny, with that old lady, I had no idea who she was, and I couldn't get her name amidst the chaos. But then many months later, after I edited the film and it had been screened at the showcase for the National Film and Television School, I got an email from her.
Oh.
So someone that had been on the showcase had seen her in a train in London and giving her the link, which is absolutely amazing. So this stroke of faith, I would say, has led to me developing a new film with her.
Wow, I look forward to seeing it. But so film is also a great way to make connections, obviously.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, unfortunately, but I have one last question to the directors of 18 and director of Wrong Direction, and it's, where are they now? Where is Ansu? Do you have news from him? And what is the band doing now? Maybe starting with Ansu.
He's still in Italy, in Grottammare, where he arrived, and he's working now, as far as I know. I know Laura has been more in contact with him recently. Maybe you can add a bit more, but we're happy that he's found some work and he can stay a bit longer in Italy after all this mad process. Yeah.
The band is, it's a bit spread out in the country right now, but they meet regularly, and they just recorded or finished recording their first album. The tour was postponed due to the virus, but so the girl who talks about moving away or staying, she actually moved away to study, and two of the others did as well, but they managed to keep in touch, and yeah, I think it's going quite well.
Can you remind me what the band name is? Because I'm not sure we hear it that much in the film.
No, they call themselves Sliten Eliten. I guess it translates to something like sick of the elite, or elitist while tired. I don't know. I don't think it's quite Norwegian. Yeah. Well,
you should all check it out because it's great music, very empowering. There was a lot to say about all of your films. They're all brilliant in their own way and all very different. So I'm sorry we had so little time, but I wanted to thank you all for making the time to talk to me. And of course, thank all of our spectators. If you haven't voted for your favorite film, do it now, because there's an audience award to give out at the end of the festival. There's also a lot to catch online, more short films, more Q&As, more feature films. So please go explore, enjoy, and spread the word. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.